So, Professor Panda, we talk about higher education, but we don't talk about primary education, which is the foundation of a student. So, why do you think that we should talk about the primary education?
Well, the reason primary education is very important because it's the feeder for secondary and tertiary education. If you really look around the world, the best education models which everybody wants to follow is from Finland. And looking at the elementary or the primary education there, the children until the age of 7 don't have any homework. They don't have any fixed curriculum. They go, they play, they do what the children are supposed to do. So, if as a nation we think that we are going to sort out our tertiary education, which is our university education, without giving due importance to primary education, we are fooling ourselves. Because the same children who are in primary school today will be in the middle school and high school tomorrow and will be in the college and universities day after tomorrow. So it is very important to talk about primary education. In fact, there is, I believe, unnecessary importance given to university education. We should actually put all our eggs in primary education, because if we have children properly trained and properly think when they are younger, then the same children will automatically do well when they come to middle school and high school and beyond. So the force should really tilt in favor of primary education. And one of the reason why primary education is also very important is, in a cognitive way, the way your brain works when you are younger. If you remember, for example, when you were in primary school or I was in primary school, and of course in middle school and high school, we get really influenced by what we see, by our surrounding, by nature. So early childhood years actually have been proven scientifically to play a very important role how a child thinks going beyond those years. It's extremely important. Whether you want to be a professional in any particular field, or you want to be an artist, whatever you want to be, those early years play an extremely important role. And it's important to follow the child. There's a famous saying by Maria Montessori, who is obviously very well known among the early childhood education circle. And her famous book was Follow the Child. So, as a teacher in the primary education circle, all you need to do is to follow the child. The children are intuitive enough to do what is the right thing to do. You don't really have to teach a child at that time. All you need to do is to make the environment conducive so that the child learns.
So, there is a language debate going on, as you know. So, do you think that English is an important language in the primary education? What is the role of English in the primary education?
Well, yes and no. English is a global language, and despite the fact that people are going gaga about everything should be in regional language, you can't really avoid learning English. Because think about it, when you go for an interview, you don't give an interview in a local language, you give the interview in English. Tomorrow, you are competing with people from outside of the country, whether you like it or not, whether you see them or not, the competition has become global. Somebody who is sitting in a village in a hinterland of India doesn't realize it, but he or she actually is competing with people who are sitting in Berlin, in San Francisco, in Moscow, in Peking, in Budapest. You don't know that. So, learning English is paramount to be competitive globally. Having said that, one doesn't really come at the cost of other. In the sense, learning English doesn't mean that you don't have to learn your own language. There are enough evidence scientifically which is known that your brain is capable of learning multiple languages equally well. So, as your mother tongue, you should learn your mother tongue. You should actually write in your mother tongue. But there's a very interesting paradigm right now going on. Like everybody's talking about learning in Hindi, for example, in the university level. But to me, it's a little silly learning about Hindi in university level, but not learning in Hindi or your other regional languages equally at a primary level. Because think about it, if you learn in your mother tongue or in Hindi and get a degree and go on to an interview, can you really force the interviewer to speak or answer questions only in that language? You can't do that. So I think the debate about English versus regional languages or Hindi is meaningless. A child can learn both and should learn both and equally well. And I think it's very important to be a global player, not letting the child learn only in regional languages or only in Hindi. I think it's meaningless. You can learn multiple languages.
As you talked about rural peoples, that when they are going to in the job market, that they are competing with globally. So how do you think that we should shape our primary education for the rural peoples? How should we shape it in a way so that they can compete in a global world properly?
Well, it's very important not to distinguish rural versus urban. A child is a child is a child. It doesn't matter where the child is born or which school it goes. I think the important thing that we should strive to bring excellence in our education. And what do I mean by excellence? I gave you an example of Finland. I gave an example of what Maria Montessori used to actually teach and believe in and wrote about. So I think in rural areas or in urban areas, you just have to create conducive environment for children until the age of 7. And if you remember that when you see a younger child barely 6 or 7 with 10 kilograms of the bag hauling the books, it's not necessary. The concept of rote learning is over, particularly in the age of artificial intelligence, where we don't really need the way we used to. The doctors, the journalists, the writers, the scientists, now most of our job to certain extents are going to be fulfilled by AI, which is a good thing if we have to embrace it. That doesn't mean that the doctors and scientists and professors and journalists are going to be, or writers are going to be useless. No, their job profile or the need has changed. That means we need to embrace technology so that our own job becomes better delivered, better received. So in the rural areas you mentioned, I don't think rural areas should be distinguished from urban areas or semi-urban areas as far as primary education is concerned. The must thing that we need to strive is creating environment for younger children so that the environment is so conducive, and have the teachers there as enablers, not necessarily teach, enable, make the environment enable. I'll give you a small example. If a child who is 5 is thirsty and asking for a glass of water, there are two solutions. The teacher goes and fetches the glass of water and gives the child, which is normally everywhere it happens, but that's not the necessary right thing to do. Think about it. We make tables and chairs small, which is reachable by 5-year-olds, and we keep water jugs which are non-breakable, including glasses. So the child can actually reach himself or herself to the table, knows how to pour water and drinks. So our job as teachers must be enablers, not doing the jobs that the student or the child is actually asking to do. So in that sense, we shouldn't distinguish between rural and urban areas.